So me and Will are here in Orlando, I think Oviedo, actually, so just northeast of Orlando at our first stop, and we're going to do a little bourbon hunting 101. So we're going to give you some tips to maybe improve your bourbon hunting. And this stop, the reason we're way out of the way, like this was probably 40 plus minutes from us, is that we dropped this in Discord. And this was one of the only suggestions we got of places that we needed to visit in the Orlando area. So tip number one is to have bourbon friends that will share their places that they find good bottles. And a lot of folks want to hoard their honey holes. They don't want to share them with you. And those are not your bourbon friends. Those are your bourbon acquaintances. Your bourbon friends, they'll give you some tips on places they've found good bottles. So the first one is Oviedo Fine Wine and Spirits. We're going to go in. We're going to give that one a try. And as we go through these, there's several different types of liquor stores out there. So as we go through these, we're going to talk to some folks, maybe get some pointers from people in these stores. But then we're also going to, after we come out of the stores, give you a little review of the different types of stores that we find and how you might be able to, not necessarily take advantage, but, leverage the different types of stores to find good bottles of whiskey.
How you doing?
Good. How about yourself?
Oh, good, thank you.
Seeing a lot of this Heaven Hill Bottled-in-Bond right here for around $50. Now, 2 or 3 years ago, these were really hard to come by, but I'm seeing them a lot. I do have a couple of bottles at the house. Only reason I'm not picking these up, though. But if you see them, good bottles. Definitely buy one if you've never tried it. Treaty Oak Rye. Australian whiskey. I know we've got a lot of viewers from Australia, especially on the live streams and stuff. So this will be my first Australian whiskey right here. Starward single cask release. It's a single malt. I'm not gonna like it. I'm just gonna go ahead and tell you, don't hate me because I don't like your single malts, but we're gonna try it. All right, y'all let me know what scotches I should have bought that I don't know anything about, or Irish whiskey, seeing how we just use that term interchangeably now. Batch 11 Kentucky Owl, very old St. Nick's, Sagamore's down at the bottom, Driftless Glen. Probably should try those, but we'll see how the day goes. What are you finding there, Will?
This stuff is good.
What is it?
Ole Smoky, that
the butter pecan?
Yeah.
That is good. Grab a couple of those. It's not bourbon, but sometimes other things can be good too. Doesn't always have to be bourbon.
They got a salty watermelon whiskey over here.
I think I'll pass on that. Castle and Key wheated right there. Haven't tried that. Lots of Old St. Nick's. I really want to try those Old St. Nick's. I bought a few, but I've always sent them off to a friend who loves them. At some point, I've got to get on that. Anybody know anything about that Ruddles Mill right there? I'm not sure about that guy. Let's see. See, this is one of those where if it said bottled in bond, I'd probably buy it. Produced and bottled, Ruddles Mill. We know what that means. Produced usually means they didn't distill it, which, fine, no hate. No hate. At some point, we may produce some whiskey we didn't distill, but there's a few rye. I know we've had some recommendations on that. Some good bottles there. We do have most of these at home. I need to check. One of my Russells just ran out, and I don't know which one it is. So I may need to pick up that single barrel right there. I don't know if we've had a Templeton Rye yet or not.
It's 10 years old.
10-year-old Templeton Rye. There's your Buffalo Trace, $37. Is that it's a big bottle. Is that a liter?
Yes.
What's the size of that bottle? It feels very large. Sometimes you just put your hands on it, and it just feels bigger.
What do you mean by that?
In Alabama, you usually got to go to an allocation drop to get Buffalo Trace. And it'll last sometimes for a day or two, but it's gone pretty quick. Show it to us.
It's got dust on it.
That looks like you. That looks like something you would drink right there, for sure. There's an Elijah Craig toasted barrel right there for $70. You're talking about the top floor, small batch, bonded, foolproof, single barrel, like those benchmarks for 20-something bucks, freaking incredible. Like, y'all need to be on those. Never heard of Fox and Eden. How do you normally handle allocated stuff? Is that you just normally just trickle them out whenever you get them?
Well, very rare bottles, I just put it on raffle.
Okay.
To give everybody a chance to win, a chance to buy it at retail price.
So how do you get into the raffle? Do you just come in? Is it a loyalty program? Or?
No, you come in and spend usually every $20 you spend in the store, you get a ticket.
So it's mostly for locals then, folks that come in regular and that kind of thing. That makes sense. You pour samples?
Yeah, I do pour samples.
Ooh, we get to try some of these before we buy them. Number 2 tip, never get high on your own supply. Oh wait, that's a different list. So this is your barrel pick here, that Ghost Hill bourbon. You mind if I try that one?
Yeah.
Probably the best use ever of an old Booker's box there. Treaty Oak barrel pick. What do you think of this one?
It's pretty good. Most of the people around here kind of don't like it because it's malty.
Yeah, it's got a lot of malt. And that Texas kind of Oh, those oak tannins.
That's the typical Texas bourbon.
I'm glad I tried that one before we bought it, because that was not going to be my jam, though. What about the Australian Starward over there? Do you have a sample of that? Or?
I do.
Okay, that'll be the last one.
Why is that Woodford so expensive?
Why is which Woodford so expensive? That's the Baccarat, the Woodford Baccarat. So that's in like a crystal decanter. Oh, it's a neat looking bottle. So, but as soon as you open it, it's worth nothing.
Decanter worth about $800.
So what's the best price you're going to make me on that Woodford Baccarat?
Minimum price.
Well, if the decanter's worth $8, I'll give you $8 for it.
That's a no.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough.
Ancient red wine barrels and then finish in the French oak casks.
Okay, so that might be good. The malts that I like so far have been wine finish, so not really port so much. Maybe sherry cask finish malts have been pretty good to me. We've got a few viewers from Australia. They may love me or hate me after this. We'll see. You can definitely smell the maltiness.
There's not much of a taste.
Yeah, not so much. And so you said this was wine finished, and then
No.
okay,
It's aged in a wine barrel
it's aged in a wine barrel. Okay.
and then finished in the French oak.
You can definitely taste the wine barrel there a little bit, kind of tames some of the maltiness on the front, but then it very much tastes like a scotch on the finish, doesn't it? Yeah.
It's a single malt whiskey.
Any bottles in here that I really should be looking out for that you think are exceptional? It's a tasty looking bourbon video y'all are watching right now, but you know what else is tasty? Magic Spoon. You probably know I'm a dad. I'm old enough to have a kid that can drink. What you may not know is that I actually have 2 teenage daughters at home as well. And one of the most important jobs as a dad is to sneak into the pantry and snack on their cereal every once in a while. It's a thankless job, but somebody's got to do it. But unfortunately, if we're going to get lean and fit, those sugary cereals just aren't going to cut it. And that's why I'm glad I found Magic Spoon. Magic Spoon is a high quality, wholesome cereal with no artificial ingredients, and best of all, no sugar. You know, we like to do things a little differently here at Brewzle, which is why I love that Magic Spoon is actually cereal reinvented. It's got all the same great flavors of those kiddie cereals, but using real ingredients and 13 to 14 grams of protein per serving. So it's even helping me trim down my bourbon belly. The variety pack comes in 4 delicious flavors: fruity, frosted cocoa, and peanut butter. But the fruity, to me, is the best one. It's so good, I'm never going back to those sugary kid cereals. Matter of fact, I may have to hide it so that the kids can't snack on it. Click the link below to grab a variety pack for yourself and try it today. And be sure to use the promo code Brewzle at checkout to get $5 off your order, or go to magicspoon.com/Brewzle. And Magic Spoon is so confident it's backed by a 100% happiness guarantee. So if you're not happy with it for any reason, they'll give you your money back, no questions asked. So click the link below or scan the QR code on the screen and use code Brewzle for $5 off, or go to magicspoon.com/Brewzle. Save $5 today. Let's get back to that bourbon video. Any bottles in here that I really should be looking out for that you think are exceptional? So is there one that maybe is a local thing or something that's kind of most people don't know about that I need to be looking for?
Talking about local, we can't make whiskey in Florida.
Hard to make bourbon with salt water, is that what you're saying? Russell Single Barrel Rye right there. Is this Russell Single Barrel Rye? Was that a store pick, or is that just a regular old single barrel? Okay.
That's the newest one they released.
What do you think about this rye?
Super good.
Would you rather have the single barrel or the 6 year?
A single barrel. I like higher proof.
Okay.
My favorite bottle in here is that Old Forester 1920.
Oh, it's hard. Like Old Forester puts their name on nothing that doesn't taste fantastic. Knob Creek 100 proof rye right there. We walk right past. That Templeton will. I don't know.
Templeton 10 years single barrel is so good.
Okay, you sold me. I was wavering, and he sensed me wavering, and he went in hard for the sale. He's like, I need to get rid of this $94 bottle right here. This Cooper 100 right here. That's a heavy hitter for $35. That's a good bottle of whiskey. And I don't think I have the hundreds. We'll grab that one too. You put the really hard to find stuff you put in a raffle, and then the stuff that's kind of that next tier down that's a little rare, you just kind of mix it into the store. Now, do you usually keep it in the bourbon section, or does it end up anywhere?
Well, sometimes it's somewhere else too.
Yeah, somewhere just put it where. So do we need? We need to be looking. Like if you find a bourbon in any other section, it's probably rare. Kentucky Owl Batch 11. Have you had that one?
I had it.
You like it?
It's real good.
It's $300. That's the problem. Everywhere I see it, it's $300. Is that MSRP on that bottle? someday, but I'm buying like lots of bottles on these trips, but I just can't bring myself to do it. Those very old St. Nick's, I've bought a couple of those, but they're always given away to somebody that really wanted them. You're gonna hold on the no with the Woodford Baccarat. That's probably doing me a favor. So you're not even gonna name a price on the Baccarat? You're not even gonna name a price? Like, you never can tell. I'm probably gonna say no.
Least I can do is like 1,700.
Yeah, that's a good discount, but that's still gonna have to, I'm gonna have to pass. Thank you.
Huh?
Did you just get back from bourbon hunting?
I found a new bottle of Old Soul.
What kind of Old Soul is it?
That's
Okay.
the new one I found.
Straight bourbon whiskey 2022.
That's the one we tried last week.
Store pick.
We like this one a lot, except it needs water. You're into it?
Yeah, you get to drive. Will gets to drive. I try it. We'll drive. We'll driving from here on, so I'm trying. Okay. He broke out the fancy glass.
Have him try that one right off the bat. We had tried it, and we couldn't pick up the flavors on it. Do you pick up any notes when you smell it?
Old Soul's kind of weird to me. It has some interesting notes that I have a hard time identifying. They're almost like plum notes, but they don't have the sweetness to them. You definitely get some oak tannins on this one. This one's a little oakier. I get a little bit of plum on the finish there. I don't know if you pick that kind of dates and plums.
Well, add a drop of water to it.
Drop of water is where it's at.
Just a little. So with this, see how it.
I mean, it definitely opens it up a good bit. I don't know. That's my problem with Old Souls. I just don't like how it hits my palate. I don't hate any of them. None of them are like bad, but the notes I'm getting, I'm usually looking for more sweet, caramel, fruits, floral notes, and Old Soul doesn't give you any of that.
Well, I think
so
with
if you
the
like
water, you pick up more floral notes.
There's definitely a little more of that on the
After
front.
you-
Yeah, see, that smells better to me already. It's a lot sweeter. You get those interesting rye spicy notes through the middle of the palate, so I don't get those kind of dark fruit. Definitely don't get the oak tannins. We got one more. We got a third one. Why not? What is this one? Single barrel select. Yeah, so it's
It was
22.
something different. It was 120 proof.
Oh, that's gonna be, yeah. Let's try that. Honestly, that's the best nose I've ever had on an Old Soul.
Cheers.
Yeah, now we're getting somewhere. But that is much brighter. The flavors are much sharper. That's a good whiskey.
Have you had the Old Forester single barrel rye?
Do you have it here?
No. Well, I had a couple of bottles, but I didn't sell it. I drank it.
The joys of liquor store ownership, right? This is a really, really good Irish whiskey, y'all. This Johnny Walker Blue with the... All right, so that's what we call a local store. And that basically is somebody where the owner-operator is there, working the store most of the time. Really cool dude, hang out, knows his whiskey, tries a lot of the whiskey, but he's also really skewing his hard-to-find bottles more toward his local customer base. And if you want to get in with guys like that, it just takes coming in regularly. If you come in regularly, you're buying, especially if you're buying a lot of whiskey from him, always talking to him, trying to build that relationship and let him know that there's a particular bottle that you're looking for. Like, I'm looking for a Jack Daniel's 12 or a Coy Hill, like he said he gets some of those from time to time. Let those folks know what bottles you're looking for, and then they're more likely to call you when they get one of those bottles, especially if you're a good regular customer where you're buying a lot of whiskey. We don't have a lot of opportunity to do that where I'm at because there are no local stores. There's Alabama ABC, it's all state run, and the local stores are usually gas station liquor stores that are more catering to the low-end market. They're not doing barrel picks. It's really hard to buy a lot of whiskey from them because they just don't have anything interesting, and it's almost always marked up. If I'm going to go buy Jack Daniel's, I'm going to pay $10 more a bottle than just going to the Alabama ABC store. But if you're in a place where you have a lot of local stores like that, well, give them a try and talk to, just make sure you're hanging out, talk to them for a little bit. Try the samples of what they have. If you like it, buy a bottle of that. Just spend a little time in there. Like, that dude was hanging out. He was cool. Like, we probably could have stayed there 3 or 4 hours, drank a bunch of whiskey and talked about whatever. So take advantage of that to try to build that relationship. So I think we're gonna go grab some lunch now that I've had a few pours and then hit our next store. All right, we interrupt this regularly scheduled lunch break for Winn Dixie, beer, wine, and spirits. So this was just right around the corner there from where we were, so figured we might as well hit this while we're over here. You're looking for grape Happy Dads?
Golf course.
See on the fruit punch.
Mercantile, $22.99. Barrel aged, no kidding, 4 years. Bottled by, distilled in Indiana. Good old MGP. We've been getting a lot of requests on Horse Soldier. Small batch, hand selected for 67, or just their straight bourbon whiskey for 45. What's the proof? 90 something proof. Looks like they're both the same proof wise. Let's have a look at this guy. Handmade and bottled. It doesn't say distilled. Columbus, Ohio. I don't know, Will. What do you think? Yes or no? You think no? Okay.
As a financial advisor,
As a financial advisor, you'd say no? Yeah. This Brothers Bond, we've been getting a lot of recommendations on as well. These guys were in like
$36.
These guys were in some sort of movie. I don't know. I think they were in Twilight or something.
No, that's the Vampire Diaries, I think.
These were in the Vampire Diaries?
I think that's the guy.
They were in something about vampires. I don't really know.
Yoo-hoo! Anybody home? Big bad vampire out here.
Bottled and distributed, distilled in Indiana. So it's going to be MGP. What do you think? As a financial advisor, what are your thoughts on this bottle?
No.
Are you ever going to say yes on anything? What about this High West right here?
No.
You don't like High West?
They all look the same.
If it was up to Will, apparently we would never buy anything. So just might as well leave. Just make sure there's nothing interesting hiding behind the counter back there. They don't like it. You ever get anything allocated? What do you do with it? You just put it out when you get it?
No, we got a raffle.
Makes sense. Okay. Cool. Appreciate it. And so that's what we call the chain. You never can tell how they're going to do it, but most of them have some sort of loyalty or reward system where they put a lot of bottles. A lot of them, though, will just put it out. Like they'll just put the bottles out on the shelf and don't even worry about the raffle. So you can get lucky with the big chain liquor stores. It's really hard though with most of these to build a relationship because the people at the actual store don't have any say-so over who gets a bottle. I've known people to do it, but normally they're doing it at like the corporate buyer level. So they're having to move up the chain a little bit. You can't like build necessarily a relationship. I mean, you could theoretically say, hey, I'm looking for this really nice bottle. I'll give you $20 if you can call me when y'all get it, something like that. Like you could build a relationship that way, but it's usually hard at these chain stores. At least in my opinion, in my experience, it's been difficult to build any relationships at these. But again, not something we have in Alabama. All of those are state run, and those people not only will lose their job, they might actually go to jail at a state run store if they hold a bottle for you. Don't love the chains. You can find, like lots of times the chains just buy so much whiskey and sell so much stuff that you can oftentimes find a little more allocated stuff there though. And lots of times the commodities, the Jack Daniels, if you're just looking for a mixer, lots of times those are cheaper at these stores, like at big chains, than they would be because they're going on volume. They're not necessarily trying to make as much dollar per bottle as a small store that's just struggling to get by. But honestly, I would rather just pay a few more dollars at a nice local store with some dude that's trying to feed his family. You're thinking lunch and then we find some liquor stores over there?
Yeah.
What, you want to go to Miller's Ale House for lunch?
For some beer.
Why? You don't want, it's not for the food, it's for the beer.
Their hot chicken sandwich is pretty good too.
I try to avoid chains when I go places. Like if I'm on the road, I don't want to go to a chain. And Miller's Ale House is definitely a chain, but at least it's a chain I can't get back home. So let's head over there and see if we can find some food. Your choice of bourbon offering served with muddled orange, filthy Amarena black cherry, and dashed with Angostura bitters, served with a large ice cube to keep it cool, but not watered down. And then they say 1792 Angel's Envy, Bullet Rye, Elijah Craig, High West, Maker's Mark, Michter's, and Michter's Rye. Let's have them make us one and see if I can guess which whiskey they put in. Surprise me, just don't tell me. You know, but don't tell me. So what we're gonna do, do surprise reveal on a napkin. Okay, he doesn't think I can guess it. I don't think I can guess it. We're gonna see if I can guess it.
Water too?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you. Right, you know what whiskey they used in this?
Yes.
Okay.
I didn't go for it.
You picked it. Baker's Mark? No? What'd you use? Port finish. That's what it was. The port finish. I was going for a weeder because it was kind of sweet, but it's the port finish on the Angel's Envy. You got me. It's good though. Thank you. Yeah. I figured I was going to get that wrong. This is a very strong old-fashioned without a ton of alcohol in it. Excuses, right?
Always an excuse.
I mean, they're reasons. It's not an excuse. I just realized when we got back in the car that we didn't film any of the food. I was so distraught over getting the guess wrong on my old-fashioned. She fooled me with that Angel's Envy port wine finish. Tricked me. trickster that I just forgot to film any of the food whatsoever. So I had the prime rib sandwich, which was pretty good. I think it was just leftover prime rib from yesterday. They put into a French dip. What did you have, Will?
The hot chicken sandwich.
Hot chicken sandwich. So we just forgot to film. We didn't film any of it. So that's useless footage altogether. Now we need to find another liquor store. Do you have another one in mind, or you just want me to hit the GPS and see what we find? Would you say?
Just driving Miss Daisy around.
Unappreciative whippersnappers. Now that we've got our bellies full, Legacy Liquors. Just about 8/10 of a mile away from Miller's Ale House. Let's go in and see what we find. I mean, those are pretty good. I prefer the triple mash, though. You like that bonded?
I haven't had it.
You haven't had it? Russell's Reserve 13.
It belongs to my cousin. We had an event and I wanted to dress up the store. But that's what he's looking for.
So they're his bottles. That is the single Rickhouse his bottle too?
Yeah, both of them. But he's like, if you don't sell it, bring it back.
Instead of sending them back, tell him to give me a deal on the Rickhouse, the single Rickhouse, and the 13, and then you can just send him money. So you just opened the store then?
We're a year and a month old now.
Okay. Got the Redwood Empire Bottled-in-Bonds up there. Have you had those?
Yes, they're good. I had it, but we drank so much that day, man. Because the girl, when she came in, we drank the whole line of Redwood. And then she brought those out in these little bottles.
I like Redwood. I just haven't had the Bottled-in-Bond stuff from them yet.
This community is a huge bourbon community.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we're a brand new store.
Yeah.
So you have to build all these sales in order to get allocations.
I understand
And
how
I'm
that
getting
works.
one bottle here and there. So most of the times, the guys that are supporting me, I just give it to them. Have you had the Handy and Schiller? The old-fashioned mix, Handy and Schiller? You ever had that?
I have not, no.
Would you like to taste it?
Sure, if you've got it, I'll give it a try.
And it's made with Picard's New Orleans bitters. So it's all good stuff that it's made with. The orange peel, great peel.
That's actually pretty good for a pre-made old-fashioned. I think if you put that over ice with a cherry, that would actually be really good. St. Augustine, but it's the port finish. I'm probably going to pass on that. More J. Riger's right there. Blue Notes. I tell you what, I wouldn't mind grabbing that Redwood Empire Bottled-in-Bond, the red label up there. Buffalo Trace cigars.
You had those before?
Not the Buffalo Trace ones. I've got some of the Pappy ones at home. The Weller.
Well,
Oh, Lord. Okay, go ahead and toss me a couple of those up here. I also have never heard of a Weller cigar, but I have now, and I have to own it. Appreciate it. Thank you. That store is kind of interesting because it is a local store, and right now, he said with his allocated stuff, he's just kind of, handing it out or selling it to, clients that are supporting the store, but it sounds like his cousins are more bourbon museums, and that's probably what this store will become at some point in the future once it gets more established. In bourbon museums, it's just really hard. You find the owner, you can negotiate. Sometimes if you're going to spend a whole bunch of money, you can get a little bit of a deal, but you're going to pay pretty close to secondary. You might negotiate that off. Like I said, if you're going to buy a package deal and buy several bottles, and if you're in there a lot, every once in a while they'll get you a break, but you really gotta negotiate and work the bourbon museums if you're going to try to find anything really good. He used his cousin as the reason why that's a bourbon museum. And we call them museums because they don't sell bottles. Like, they just sit there. They just mark them way up, and they just soon sit on them forever. At some point somebody will come in there and pay that price, or they'll lower the price a little bit. And that's fine, right? They're a business. They're trying to stay in business, and they understand the secondary market, and they realize that, folks like us may go in there and buy them and then put them on Facebook and make money on them. And they're thinking, if they've got that value, they've got the bottles, why do they not make the money on them? So that's fair. It's a fair point. It's not cool for us. It's not fun to go in there and see a bottle that's way overpriced that maybe we can't afford, or we don't want to spend that kind of money on it when it should be a closer to MSRP bottle. But realistically, if those bottles were MSRP, they'd have sold a long time ago, and I wouldn't have got them anyway. So we want to find some different types of stores. We've hit a chain. We've hit a couple of local stores, one a bourbon museum and one that really used kind of a reward system. Let's see what we can find next. This is an ABC store, but different than the ABC stores we're used to in the state of Alabama. In Alabama, the ABC stores are all state-run, right? Alabama Beverage Control or Alcohol Beverage Control. I don't freaking know what it stands for, but state-run stores. This is the chain of stores. So this is a large chain. Now, with large chains, oftentimes, again, it's really difficult to build relationships, and it depends on the chain. A lot of them will have rewards, but oftentimes the big chains will just drop those bottles on the shelf as well. Sometimes you could find pretty hard to find stuff in some of these stores because they're obviously selling an awful lot of alcohol, so they're going to get a lot more allocated bottles than a lot of the small stores will, I would assume. I haven't been able to build any relationships here with any of these types of stores. Like I said, most folks I know that have done it up on a higher level, so they kind of get a little inside access, but not at a local store. Hey, how's it going? These little WB samples, wild turkey product, that's a good bottle. But it's just a tiny little bottle for $55. That's St. Augustine straight bourbon whiskey. Walking stick. I've really enjoyed Puncher's Chance. I haven't tried those, but just normal Puncher's Chance, pretty good stuff. Sagamore Double Oak right there. Got some John Emerald. A little bit, yeah. You into bourbon? What are you into?
I like single barrels. Honestly, the one, my daily go-to is Four Roses single barrel.
Nothing wrong with that. Can't beat that,
like,
yeah.
If you find it for the right price.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
I've not had the Campfire. I was surprised to see it, so I'm going to give that a shot. Midwinter's Night Dram. Another one of my favorites, if you find it for the right price, Eagle Rare.
Of course. Yeah, we buy
good
it.
tenure.
We buy it under $50 anytime we see it. So let's see, Four Roses, Eagle Rare. So you like sweeter stuff?
Yeah. The 1920.
Okay.
Old
Yeah,
Forester.
that's got a little more heat
I
to
think I
it.
heard you said the Double Oak.
Well, we were talking about the Sagamore Rye Double Oak right there, which is
Woodford Double Oak.
a good bottle. My viewers are going to give me a hard time about not buying that bottle right there. Yeah, they always pick something that I should have bought that they give me a hard time about. But you can't buy all the bottles. That's the problem. I can buy any bottle we want. We just can't buy all the bottles. Some Garrison Brothers, small batch thing, Honeydew, lock, stock, and barrel vatted straight rye whiskey. Know absolutely nothing about that. Phoenix Blend 2XO. Y'all let me know in the comments what bottle I should have bought that I didn't buy while I was here.
What did I do wrong? Name one thing.
And then maybe next time I'll buy it. Somebody in the comments, I've got a ton of stuff on High West, so I'm going to buy a High West if I find their bourbon. Von Payne Black, is that some sort of celebrity thing? $59. Do you think we could get 1 million views with that bottle? We did it with the Derringer.
Yeah, but I don't think we do this one.
High West Rise. I'm looking for a High West bourbon. Here we go. High Country Campfire. There's their normal bourbon. High Country limited supply. High West bourbon's $30. Single malts. I'm looking for anything interesting that kind of catches my eye. What's your favorite?
My favorite right now for like a good affordable one.
It doesn't have to be affordable as long as it's not too unaffordable. So what is Bridge in Maine?
Bridge in Maine? Yeah, so this actually comes from Cleveland, Ohio. Super
Okay.
random. But they know how to make good whiskey there. It tastes like Buffalo Trace and Weller put together.
You sold me. Go ahead and hand it to him. You sold me. You sold me with the Buffalo Trace and Weller blended together. I don't know if I believe you, but you sold me. At some point, we're going to have to grab that Nelson Greenbrier. Let's go with these. This is our score for the day. So we found a couple of moderately available bottles. One we had never heard of that the woman at ABC store was very, very fond of. She said it tastes like Weller and Buffalo Trace blended together, and that sounds like a good time to me. So we grabbed that one for sure. And then we got a High West. A lot of y'all been asking me to try High West. This is just good old cheap. I got the cheap High West bourbon. We'll give that a try at some point in the near future on one of the live streams. So be sure to tune in to the live streams on Monday, because we're going to start taking these bourbon hauls after the video comes out. We'll go through and we'll try a bunch of these on the live stream. So if you're seeing this video now, next Monday, this comes out usually on a Friday. Whatever day it comes out, the following Monday, we'll open and try some of these bottles. We are now here at Pat's Leaf and Liquor. We're going to go in here and check this out, and then when we get back out, I'm going to recap my tips for bourbon hunting and go through a few we weren't able to show in this video. You know, sometimes different stores require different technique, and we didn't find some of those stores here. So let's see what this one looks like, and then we'll recap. I actually hear really good things about this Walking Dead Spirits of the Apocalypse. Never tried it. I think it was Matt at ADHD Whiskey was talking about how good these were. So worth giving a try. Hillhaven Lodge. Tiger Thick. Don't know much about it, but they've got some nice bottles behind the shelf up there, but I don't know what kind of room we got to negotiate. Duality Double Malts. They just got stuff shoved everywhere in here. What's your price on that Elmer? $3.49. Which Parker's Heritage is that? I see the rye. What's the other one? Which barrel finish? Does it say?
Orange Sirocco.
Oh, it's a Curacao.
Yep, the orange Curacao.
Ah, that's my least favorite one.
Sorry.
That sucks. What's the rye then?
Heavy char barrels.
It's the heavy char?
Yep.
What's your price on that?
No, this is $5.99.99.
And what about the Old Forester 150 right there? Yeah, the two.
Literally same as that price, $5.99.99.
And then the mixers over there, the tins, the rye and the...
Both of them are $3.49.
Okay. No negotiation on any of those, even if I buy
I
several?
was gonna say, if you take several, I'm sure I do it.
Okay.
What were you trying to get?
What do you got on that Eric Church right there?
Church.
I'm not as interested, but I'd like to know your price on those.
$349.99.
Yeah, definitely not interested in that. So if I bought the Old Forester, the Parker's Heritage Rye, and let's see if we got anything.
I'm gonna call my boss really quick.
I don't know if there's any other, are there any other bourbons I'm missing back here somewhere? I'm really more interested in bourbons and ryes than anything.
I was gonna say I have E.H. Taylor, the
Okay.
small batch,
Yeah.
for $89.99. I have one of those inside of my office. It just came in today.
All right.
Henry McKenna 10-year as well that came in.
Yeah, not as
I don't know if
interested in
you're
that one.
interested
Yeah.
in that. And I believe I have an Eagle Rare as well that just came
Okay. What's your price on that?
in. Eagle Rare I believe is $59.99 if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken.
I will be long gone in about 10 minutes.
I was gonna say, I'm sure I can give you like a 12% off discount on it. So it brings the Parker's Heritage down to $527.99, and it brings the Michter's down to $325. And the same exact, it would be the same thing with the Old Forester. It would go from $599 to $527.99. That's literally the highest discount I have as access for myself.
I don't think that's enough for spending that much money.
I completely understand where you're coming from, boss.
I mean, those, it's pretty high markup on those. But I get the markup. No hate. Just, you know, if you're going to package deal,
Of course.
you still got that E.H. Taylor, or is that dependent on me buying one of
No,
those?
sir.
I'll
I got
take
you
that
with
one off your
E.H.
hands
Taylor
for sure.
regardless.
Why not? At 59, that's a little more than I like to pay for that one, but I'll deal with it. That was a little bit of a museum. They definitely had some marked up prices, but it sounded like they were willing to negotiate, but unfortunately couldn't get in touch with the manager or the owner. That's just my luck. I'm always shopping at a time where the manager is not in the actual store. So let's go over my tips for bourbon hunting. One, have friends, because friends are going to be able to find stuff that sometimes you can't find. Like if you're looking for a particular bottle, like sometimes there's just no substitute for man hours going store to store to store. And have bottles in particular that you're looking for. When you're building relationships, if you just say, I'm into anything, I mean, sometimes that might work in your favor, but a lot of times it don't. If there's one bottle in particular, then your friends know what to look for. They think of you, and liquor store owners are kind of the same. They're like, oh, I have that in the back, or oh, I don't. So have at least some bottles in mind that maybe you're looking for, and don't always be just beating them up for allocated stuff. Like, we're not walking in there just saying, do you have Blanton's? They had Blanton's on the shelf back there. Wasn't that interested in it. And then there's different types of stores that you could go into. One, if it's a museum, you know, it doesn't hurt to try to negotiate, because sometimes they will, especially if you know that bottle's been sitting there for a while, then oftentimes they will come down on it, but you might have to, you know, come off some dollars and buy 2 or 3 bottles. Now, you're probably not going to get it at retail. You might if you're a regular customer and you've been in there a whole bunch, but can't be afraid to go up and talk. Like in there, I tried to negotiate. We couldn't get in touch with the store owner, but if I hadn't have done that, I wouldn't have known that they had some E.H. Taylor and Eagle Rare in the back. But I paid a little more than I wanted for an Eagle Rare, but an E.H. Taylor at 80-something bucks, I'll take that all freaking day. Local stores, it's all about just being in there regular and building relationships. Join all of these little reward clubs, and anytime they're doing raffles or however they're trying to get rid of their allocated bottles, just make sure you're a part of those clubs. And then just put in the hours. If you're looking for something in particular, sometimes you're just going to have to go store to store to store, and oftentimes the little stores out of the way, they may not get as much allocated stuff, but they also don't sell as much allocated stuff. So sometimes it'll sit around a little longer than usual. So hopefully that'll help you a little bit on your bourbon hunting. And if you've got any good tips for how to find allocated and hard to find bottles, let me know those down in the comments, because I'm sure there's some useful tip that I forgot to put in here. Hopefully this was helpful to y'all. We got a few good bottles. I'm going to regret not buying that Old Forester 150 and that Parker's Heritage Rye. I could just go ahead and tell you I'm going to regret it, but realistically, they'd had to come down from like $1,600 or $1,700 for those two and the 2 Michter's 10s down to probably $1,200 for me to jump on it. And even then, it's like, that is a lot of freaking money for 4 bottles of whiskey, 4 exceptional bottles of whiskey, but still just 4 bottles. Had a good time here in Orlando. We'll catch y'all in the next one.